Alright, so if this is working, I've got a live stream going right now. Keep in mind, this might be a little boring of a live stream. I'm just testing it out, basically, technically, with a low. It's only 1/5 of a gigabyte or 200 megabyte size game. And it's a little basic in a way, but it's kind of fun to explore and do things with and so on, and build your characters and so on. It's an older game, so, take it with a grain of salt. But if you want to watch, feel free. Really just testing the technical capability of doing this. Ah, there we go. Oh, I don't like that thing. It angers me. It burns. It burns. Let's see. Why don't I show you some of the mechanics to the game a little bit? So you have your 4 basic stats here. As you can see, my guy here is a big strength and endurance guy, so he's got some tanking going on. He's got some melee weapon skills. He's a bit quick. And I believe it adds a chance for double attacks. Now he's got 1 priest skill, and that's just so he can technically cast heal to top up the party between fights and stuff if they're not totally topped up, like this guy right now and this guy right now. To take the load off mana usage off these 2 people, who we'll get into in a second. He's got a little bit of defense, a little bit of hardiness, or reasonable hardiness. So he's a defensive guy, in a way. He's got some first aid, which heals you after you finish a fight the next turn you move or whatever. So that's good for endurance without using potions and stuff like that. Longevity but in dungeon dives and stuff like that. Nature lore, which allows you to pick up items from certain prefabricated locations in the game world for a little bonus loot, basically. Now let's go to this guy. He's got the same strength and endurance, basically, but he's got more polearm weapons than the other guy has melee. He's not quite as quick, but that's okay. Now he's got 2 priest spell levels. I've been making him more of a fighter than a priest, but he's got a couple blessing and buff spells that he can do. I think he's, let's see. Well, let's finish the stats thing first. He's got as much hardiness, a little less defense, and he's got a little first aid and less nature lore. And the other guy had 1 arcane lore. One here, which when you find a spell book or something that's like special, like gives you rank 3 out of 3 for the spells, then all like the spell that the book the tome is for, then you can actually read it basically if you got enough arcane lore. So that's what that's about. Now I'll get into the 2 second characters in a second, but I'm just going to show the gear loadout so you can understand what I mean. So I put a shield on this guy. You know, he's got some pretty heavy armor, chainmail. He's got a metal helmet, metal bracers, special armor for legs, and a studded belt instead of a regular belt. This is pretty early on in the game, so this is kind of mundane equipment. Boots instead of shoes, and a bronze broadsword, which is the second upgrade, or the first upgrade to the regular sword power that you can get equipment-wise. That is going to be sold, because I don't really like... It's got +5 cold resist, but I don't find the resist really matter much in this game. He's carrying a lot of weight, but if you notice, he's got like 17 crystals over here, and like 3 more, so he's got like 20 crystals that he's carrying at one time. And they do weigh a little bit, so those are going to be sold as well for some extra gold. Now for this guy. So the broadsword was 4 to 12 base damage, and I think the strength and the weapon skill add 5% each to, or 3% each, or something like that, to base damage. And this one is 8 to 24, so it's like double the base damage and so on. But if you notice, a polearm makes it so you cannot wear the shield. Now he's got pretty good armor too. You know, he's got the leather vambraces and the regular pants, but he's got some of the stuff. He's got a studded belt as well. And he's got a stability bauble, which adds 10 stun resist. He's probably going to have to sell the javelins, to be honest, because they're weighing 35 pounds, and he's basically at max weight with the 0 loot on him, basically. So, you know, and he's technically got a nuke spell. Let's see what he can cast. So he can cast a shield blessing, an attack blessing, cure poison, and acid, and basic heal. The first guy has the first 3 spells: heal, cure poison, and acid, and attack spell, or attack blessing, but not defense blessing. Okay, now onto the priest. Now he's got some strength, but he's got some intelligence as well, and slightly less endurance. He's got 1 point in quick action, not much, but he's level 6 priest skills, spells, and he's got some spellcraft in him for effectiveness of spells. He's got some tankiness with the hardiness, and he's a big first aid guy. And he's got 2 in Blade Master, 2 in Magery, 2 in Magical Efficiency, and 2 in Sharpshooter. I'm not sure what he... there's some sort of secret formula for getting these stats over here, the special skills. I'm not sure how it works exactly, but you know, he's got them. Now, this one is the mage, and if you notice, they don't have a lot of strength. Strength also affects carry weight, so that's also like another aspect to heavy armor. You can technically equip the heaviest armor you want on any character. It's a very customizable and modular system, but they interfere with mage spells basically. So the mage never really wants to have heavy armor um, unless they have a special skill. Maybe I'm not sure if it exists in this game. It's been a while since I played it, but there is a special skill to make your mage able to wear heavy armor in later games, chronologically made, like later years made games of the Avernum series and so on. If you notice, they got 7 Mage Spell, they got Arcane Lore 4, they got Spellcraft 6. They're not so big on hardiness. They got a little bit of First Aid, a little bit of Nature Lore. But if you notice, they've got a lot of tool use. And that's for getting past locked doors for special ways of getting at bosses or special loot caches and so on. It's not necessary to get through the game. And if you notice, this guy's got kind of a similar loadout in a way to the lizard in terms of raw armor, but it's got the shields, kind of a melee weapon thing going on, like the tank does. So he's probably got about similar to the lizard on armor, but cheaper equipment, but just a shield on top of it to add to what's missing in the others. There's a fine steel bar that's used for upgrading equipment, so I got one of those now. He's got 2 magic potions, mana potions. He's got a group heal scroll, which is possibly useful in a clinch. And he's got 6 ice bolt scrolls, which I might put on the mage or something, because technically he's got some things. Now the mage has a lot of healing herbs, some spiritual herbs, some energetic herbs, and mandrake root, but no grey mold, which is the supreme healing herb. Now let's show you let's show the priest spells, and then we can go from there. So he's got all the 4 that the lizard has, which is sort of like a paladin spec lizard, if you know what I mean. And the 2-hander offsets the fact that I am going to be putting some priest spells on him, so he'll be a little less martially powerful and so on. But the priest has Repel Spirit, which does like major damage to undead and can affect demons at later levels. Or maybe it can affect demons from the beginning in this game. I can't remember. But yeah, it's a single target spell. Now, his nuke is a cold-based spell, and it does 8 damage. And undead resist cold really easily. So that's what Repel Spirit is for, basically, for the undead. And if you notice, this means it's more efficient for him to use Repel Undead on any given target than Smite. But they do... I think Smite does ever so slightly less damage than Repel Undead, but it's usable on more targets by a long shot. But Repel Undead is cheaper and it does more damage, technically, so... he can summon a Shade, which is a low-level summon spell. And he can Unshackle Mind. And that'll deal with stun, daze, or mind control, or fear, or whatever you want to call it. Now the mage has her own unique skills. Bolt of Fire, Summon Beast, or Call Beast, Spray Acid. Now, spray acid is basically a damage over time that does some really heavy damage on physical targets. This is the mana saver one, and this is like the big damage nuke. If it stays alive for longer than 2 turns. That's what you use on bosses at least. This is the AoE daze. It basically stuns things for a few turns, like 3 or 4, as long as they don't take damage. So on weaker enemies, it's kind of an AoE. It's a big AoE too, and it crowd controls really efficiently and effectively. Haste. It is a spell that gives extra action points, and overrides slow spells if you apply haste next completely, and that kind of lets you turn your if you can't nuke the enemy directly, then you can at least make the people who can physically attack, like my lizard or my first guy here, or if you need extra healing, buff the priest or something with haste. Slow, useful against big enemies that are not resistant to magic. Makes them less prone to attacking 2 times and so on. And Ice Rain. Icy Rain. That's an AoE. Oh, got me to comment right away. Icy Rain is a relatively small AoE, but it's the first one you get, basically. And it's good for nuking a wide range of weak targets. Not useful against undead, though. So that's what haste is for, to make the melee guys or the priest good against undead. Okay, just a minor. Alright. Yeah. Now, I want to say also, I've said it in my pre-recorded video, but, or maybe not my pre-recorded, or maybe my pre-recorded video and my other one that's pre-recorded on game suggestions. This particular game. This particular game was made back in like 2004, and Jeff Vogel of Spiderweb Software, he's a one-man powerhouse. He literally designs the games, does the story, and like does all the balancing and the map making and world building, and like just physically placing everything in the right place. But like, he does it all by himself. Literally one man. The only thing he gets people to do is basically drawings or graphics. So like the 3D models are like someone else's work maybe, but like everything else is his work, like top to bottom of every aspect of game design. Like actually, like he's a miracle worker with like his skills. I think his wife gives some input into the games too, or something. I thought I saw him say, but like honestly, he's like For a one-man crew, his games are amazing, and like they've been amazing since 1993. Like, you make a trilogy of games that has its climax, and then you have a bit of stories. You have 3 stories for after the climax of the original series. And this particular game, Avernum 4, is being remade. So even if you don't like this exact system, which I can understand why it's not that exciting necessarily, it doesn't have dual wielding or anything like that. It's a little, it might be a little hard to follow in some sense. There's no skill tree to speak of, and the cool abilities are, you don't necessarily know how to get them entirely or something like that. But Avernum 4 is a remake, and it'll have all the quality of life improvements that he's learned in modern gaming while still being the original stories and so on. And basically, this story, the first story is about an underground society that is basically like fantasy Australia, except like you want to escape to the surface from an underground cavern society after defeating a demon that threatens it, and like 1 or 2 other things, and or maybe 3 things, but you know, like giants, lizard people who are hostile, and like the demon, and then escape to the surface. But you're always solving little problems and stuff, and like fighting random smaller threats and stuff like that. The second game takes place during a war between Fantasy Britain and Fantasy Australia, because a notable archmage of Fantasy Australia, you know, the prison colony aspect that is, and the dangerous entities and creatures, assassinates the space British Empire, Emperor or Empress. Emperor, Space Britain Emperor, not Space Britain, Fantasy Britain Emperor. So there's a giant war going on, and you have to solve it, and you find some allies and stuff, and they're kind of like, they're aliens. And then the third game is like, there's a plague of monsters on the surface world, and your Fantasy Australia has finally found a way to the surface that is somewhat away from the Fantasy Britain, although you find out not entirely. And, the aliens are still around doing their thing. And in this one, someone's messing with, someone doesn't like the fact that, like, you've been doing your thing the way you've been doing it, your society, and you're a new group of adventurers. It's always a new group of adventurers. It's kind of a joke in the series, or baked into the series, that there's constant tales of adventurers and stuff. But someone's putting up borders and causing more monsters and stuff. At least ghosts that terrorize and destroy towns and stuff. Like special ghosts, not just regular ghosts, because you can deal with those as an adventuring party just fine most of the time, but these are like Superman ghosts, or super-powered ghosts, or something. It's kind of like, well, yeah, it is what it is. And, you gotta solve that. And then the fifth game is peace between everyone basically is going on, and then some random group does an attack on the Emperor of Fantasy Britain, to False Flag, to spark a war between Fantasy Australia and Fantasy Britain again. And you gotta hunt them down and get them. Or what was it? Yeah, I think it was that. Yeah, but this time you're playing as the Fantasy Britain adventurers, not the Fantasy Australia adventurers. And Fantasy Australia is like giving you permission to track them down, stuff into the wilderness of Fantasy Australia, and like you have to explore new areas that the games haven't explored before much, or like greater detail version of a certain area that they haven't explored much before. And there's this changing social fabric throughout the games, and like evolution of the plot and storyline as it goes. So there's not multiple outcomes basically, but like you know you have a legitimate like threaded story of like all 6 games, and then the 6th game is your subterranean Fantasy Australia is running out of resources. Demons are threatening. Lizard people are threatening. The dragons are getting unruly again. And your crops are dying because of it's almost like Interstellar's plot, but like everything else as well. So, like, it's like, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it doesn't show like much, but like honestly, if you wait for the remakes of Avernum to be made, the ones with like that, like Avernum Exiled World or something like that, as opposed to Avernum 1. It'll be on Steam relatively soon. I don't know if Avernum 4 remake is made on Steam yet, but it should be reasonably soonish, maybe half a year at most. I think, judging from his work report and the fact that he knows what he's doing and stuff, and he's a dedicated worker and so on. So Jeff Vogel of Spiderweb Software. And yeah. And by the way, if you check out GeneForge 1 to 5, it's an even more wild story, and he really put alternate endings into that one. Like every one of the 1 to 5 is of GeneForge is GeneForge 1 to 5 is alternate paths, story endings, and so on. And then he just picks one or combines a couple and makes another game based on the events of the first one, and kind of mixes and matches the stories, and so on. And it's an even more wild world than this one. He cut his teeth, so to speak, with this game series, but he made GeneForge as a passion project to elevate his craft. And then he kind of combined the generic RPG stuff, a little bit that is solid, with his more wild world and alternate branching pathways thing, to make some real bangers called Avernum. And those are the series that I suggest. If you really like his games and so on, and you want to try something a little different, Queen's Wish the Conqueror, Queen's Wish Tournament might be some good games for you, but I would avoid those two myself, unless you're really a fan of his work and you want to try something that he was experimenting with. Yeah. It's good. I'll showcase Avernum 3 and Avedon 3 because I got those, and some Gene Forge. Some Gene Forge as well, probably going forwards. But yeah,